Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit that subscribe button if you're new so you don't miss any of our great football content this season. All right, Danny Parkins, as he is prone to do at least once a month, sometimes more, FS1 is joining us, and it's a day of breaking news. There are multiple reports. This is crazy. Sometimes you don't predict something, but you're not surprised when it happens. Like your buddy who drives too fast. You wouldn't predict he gets into a wreck, but if it happens, bangs into a fire hydrant, and you'd be like, well, Bob drives a little fast. Bill Belichick may not last the season. They're working on a buyout. First of all, whenever you get a friends and family staff, he and Mike Lombardi, kids on the staff, highly compensated, I'm never a huge fan of that. But I think sometimes we look at college as this inferior product of the NFL, and in terms of talent, it is. But it is a really hard trail to navigate. Donors, boosters, NIL, AD, NCAA. When you're an NFL coach, you have an impulsive owner. Then you kind of just do what you want to do. I mean, Brett Veach is not banging down a door to tell Andy what to run on 2nd and 4. I could argue there are more landmines for a college coach than a pro coach. And I just don't think Bill at this point has the tolerance for it. That's kind of my take. He's just not built for college football.
I don't think he ever wanted to be there in the first place. I said it at the time. I was like, I'm going to be the last person who believes that this is going to actually happen. It all felt beneath him. I remember when he was photographed at a Chick-fil-A in Atlanta after his interview with Arthur Blank. That was 2 hiring cycles ago. And then he did all of the media jobs, and he was hoping to get another NFL job, and it never came. And so he was like, well, I guess coaching in college is better than doing media. And I'm sure for a lifelong coach that is correct. But then you saw the buyout reports that it dipped down to just $1 million. It was like, oh, he wants to leave open any path to get back to the NFL. He never wanted to be there in the first place. And then on top of it, the embarrassment with whatever you think about the girlfriend situation, the reporting around that, the losing, and then that's all before any of the things that you're talking about, which are, of course, totally true and valid. But if you didn't really want to be there in the first place, and then you start getting mocked for being there, and then you start losing, and you've got 18-year-old kids mouthing off to you, he has to be miserable right now, Colin.
Yeah, and Lombardi's an NFL guy. Charlie Weiss had some early success at Notre Dame, but Charlie has got kind of that gruff Northeast personality, and that's fine. Some of those guys lived out there for 10 years. I liked a lot of guys like that. They're really bottom line. They're kind of gruff. They're kind of curt. But, the Carolinas is different. Everybody's got a little y'all. It's you know what I mean? Like Roy Williams, Dean Smith. There's a certain sensibility to it. And it's a weird fit to me. I think I've told you this before. Maybe I'm obsessed with this, but I'm always surprised when very successful, seemingly bright older men aren't self-aware. Like Bobby Knight. Bobby, you got to do the one and done. Everybody's doing it. You're going to get inferior players. Just too stubborn. And Bill Belichick. Bill, you can't spit on Robert Kraft. He's an owner. Owners are tight. Don't. You're not going to win. It'd be like me going against the Murdochs. Just be a good employee. Work your butt off. If they do something you don't like, eat it. Deal with it. It's sometimes I see these older men and they get stuck in their ways. We all know in our 20s, you kind of have to follow in line. Maybe it's the wealth. Maybe it's the I don't give a damn. But I mean, the idea that he wouldn't tweet Drake May, stuff because he was a patriot. Does that, I don't know. Have you ever thought about that? We've seen the Tony La Russes, the Belichicks, the Bobby Knights. You're like, guys, rigid punctures brilliance. Don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, Barack Obama said it recently. I mean, and obviously he's a great orator, but he said something like 80% of the world's problems involve old men hanging on who are afraid of death and insignificance. Like, there's something to that. And
Yeah.
we've got like an age minimum for you to be president. I'd be interested in an age maximum. Like a sweet spot there for just like you want the people who are governing on the things in our world, like it to like maybe impact them. And so yeah, I think like not to come across as too ageist here, but because there are clearly exceptions to the rule, but I wouldn't have wanted my NFL team to hire Pete Carroll. And I know you disagreed on that and you like Pete Carroll, and by all accounts, Pete Carroll is like a young mid-70s guy.
Yeah,
So I
that's what
know
I say. He was an exception.
sure, and that's fine, and I'll you know better than I do, so I'll grant you that one. But like the Bears had an opening. If you told me it was Ben Johnson or Pete Carroll, I'll take Ben Johnson 11 times out of 10, even though he's not proven as a head coach and Pete Carroll is. But I'd be betting on upside. I'd be betting on ability to connect with young players. I'd be betting on a longer runway where he could stay there. So yeah, I think that it's a real danger for a ton of people like that they just get caught in their way, they get stuck in their ways and they don't evolve. There was a reporting that Bill Belichick was pitching these kids that like North Carolina was going to be like the 33rd NFL team. That just seems laughable now.
Yeah.
It seems so laughable that he thought that he could just show up in Chapel Hill with inferior talent and just be a pipeline to the pros. Plug for my book, by the way. Pipeline to the
Yeah.
pros.
The yeah, the whole thing, you know, there's an there's a serious argument to be made. I've said this before. Men are bad at exits. We have a million pickup lines, but we break up with somebody and don't even text. We can get into wars. We can always rationalize getting into wars. We can never get out of them. Men are bad at exits. And when somebody goes through something, I put myself in that spot. I think, what would have done? And I look when Brady retired in New England, and my take, just for selfishly for legendary for legacy preservation, I would have said, listen, I owe the Crafts 1 year of stability, and I'm going to root for Tom Brady harder than anybody's ever rooted for a player. We'll never be the same franchise without Tom. I'm going to stay for 1 year to just get some stability here and get people kind of ready, and then I'm going to retire. And Bill has kind of a walk-off here. Because if you remember, they get Cam Newton. He praised Cam Newton. Cam was past his prime, but, it was okay. Here comes Mac Jones. There was a real moment in time. Bill didn't need the money, and he knew the team wasn't as good. And then he kind of stayed and stayed. In fact, I said this on the air, Danny. I said, I don't think this is true. But knowing Bill's petty and grudge-holding personality, go to that last draft that Bill controlled. Slowest team in the league, 2 kickers and 3 interior linemen. It was like he was saying, I'm going to leave you with an awful roster. I mean, they at one point they drafted 3 guards, like 2 kickers, and they had no speed. And I think I really do. If you look at that last draft when Belichick knew he was in trouble, it was the decisions. Matt Patricia, offensive coordinator, it was like he wanted to humiliate. He knew his legacy was set. He wanted to humiliate the franchise. I know it sounds crazy, and I don't believe it's true, but it's not the nuttiest thing I've ever said. Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. They're a great partner. October baseball is here, baby. The pressure's higher, the moments are bigger. One swing can change everything. Hard Rock Bet lets you get in on every pitch. So if you're a new customer, you place a $5 bet. If it hits, a $5 bet hits, you not only get your winnings, but also $150 in extra bonus bets. Plus, every day this week on Hard Rock Bet, you can get a profit boost for a playoff baseball parlay. There are new promos every day. Boost your same game parlay or your SGP max so your bet pays extra winnings. So if you want to see what everybody else is betting on tonight, who's going to homer, top picks or parlays across any sport, the Hard Rock Bet app literally shows you. Easy, cool. Another reason, download the Hard Rock Bet app. Takes you 90 seconds. Tap Discover, and you can see trending picks and parlays at any time. Download the Hard Rock Bet app, make your first deposit, have fun.
Well, no, that's a high bar to clear. Yeah, I mean, the Patricia, the drafts, like, I think there's like a real legitimate argument to make when you look at the drafts and beyond the last one of like Bill Belichick as an evaluator of talent leaves a ton to be desired.
Oh, God. On the offensive side, that's kind.
Right, exactly. And so someone asked me earlier, like, do you think this impacts his legacy? Because you kind of hinted at that. I don't think so. Like, I think that it's humiliating right now. This is very embarrassing. It feels beneath him. And I've thought that, like I said it on FS1 when I was doing Breakfast Ball. I was like, I don't believe that he's going to go to North Carolina because I don't believe he wants to do it. And now he's just kind of seen it through and it's clearly going horribly. But like in 20 years, when we're talking about the greatest coaches of all time, he's going to be on everyone's Mount Rushmore. Like that his legacy is secure. Yeah. We don't talk about Wizards. We don't talk about Emmitt Smith with the Cardinals. Like this is like a of the moment thing.
Agree.
Now, if you want to have the like, who was more responsible for the Patriots dynasty, Brady or Belichick?
Pretty clear.
Pretty clear. Even though like some of the earlier Super Bowls before Brady was really Brady, those were more Belichick, but like the majority of them were more Tom than Bill, and then obviously Tom won the breakup with what happened in Tampa. So like if you're having that specific legacy conversation, Brady over Belichick, I think now is going to be not a majority opinion. Like I think it's going to be a consensus.
Right.
But his like greatest football coaches of your lifetime, like he's on one hand, right? If not number one.
I'll throw this at you. See if you can catch it. Name the one borderline Hall of Fame guy whose last 4 years eliminated him from the Hall of Fame. That it does subtract from his 10 great years.
Well, I mean, that's the argument that Richard Sherman and Tony Gonzalez were making about Russell Wilson.
Boom.
Yeah.
So there's no question. The fall is so precipitous. He got kind of weird. And it's like, Pete, get out. Sean, get out. Tomlin, get out. Jackson Dart, excuse me, Russ. Like, it was, I mean, Phillip Rivers had the mobility of a batting cage in Indianapolis. He couldn't, I remember his GM, Tom Telesco, saying, he's the worst athlete right now in the sport. And he is unbelievable. Like, Tom loved him. He's like, people don't understand. He has no athletic ability at this point in his last year to two. Like, he didn't have any left, right?
Yeah.
And he was never super mobile, but he was a big, strong athlete. But his last year to two, he goes to Indianapolis. He just can't move. Dude, he was out of this world in Indianapolis. I think they were like 11-5? He got to a playoff game in Buffalo. They played well. Russell's great years get a little marginalized because of Marshawn Lynch, the defense, and there was a 2 to 3 year period. It was one of the best rosters in 30 years. And then to fall off a cliff and like elite coaches, Tomlin, Peyton, like we're not interested at all. I think it keeps Russ out.
Yeah, well, I think it's really, really hard to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And, it's a little different because, like, Russ is doing the same job that he was doing. Like, Bill, went to media and then went to college, right? So it's different. Whereas, like, Russ, NFL quarterback. But there's a lot of, Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, Matthew Stafford. I saw you talk about Jared Goff. Like, in this era of passing football, it's going to be very, very, very difficult for quarterbacks to get in. What is most interesting to me about the Russ conversation, because you can make the case for him, has the Super Bowl, had the 9 or 10 years of like consistent excellence. It's just clear that he is not very liked. Like,
It's weird.
what does Tony Gonzalez have against Russell Wilson? Okay, Richard Sherman, maybe they didn't get along, teammates, offense, defense, riff, like what, but like a current Hall of Famer, like a gold jacket member saying this guy's not going to wear a gold jacket, and it's not like a steroid situation or like an ethics moral of the like, what did he do? Like, why does he have such a
I
strong opinion about it?
I think there's just a sense that Russell's inauthentic, and I think you can literally do awful things as a pro athlete and still have the respect. I mean, there was a lot of questions about Ray Lewis's involvement with a murder.
Sure.
He was still respected by athletes. You can be involved in bankruptcies and infidelity, but if guys think in the mob, if they think you're a rat, doesn't matter if you're a big earner, you're a rat. And in pro football, if guys think you're a phony and inauthentic, you're out. I think it's just a line you don't cross.
And I think you're probably on it. And I know that that is just like one clip from a Thursday night football postgame show that went viral that is sticking with me. But like, if Richard Sherman would have said that, and then Tony Gonzalez would have kind of like echoed it, I'd be like, okay. But how does Tony Gonzalez know that that Russell Wilson's funny? Like, he wasn't in a huddle with him. He wasn't in a locker room because Russell Wilson might make the Hall of Fame. And then he would be in a room with Tony Gonzalez, and I'd imagine that would be a little awkward. So it was just, I can't really think of a comp for a current Hall of Famer campaigning against a prospective Hall of Famer ever. Unless it's a moral of the game, because there's a million of them in baseball, but it's all steroids related. Like, it's not just like, nah, that guy's not good enough to get in.
Well, it's funny because let's say my marriage, I didn't have coworkers at my marriage. I had a chef, a producer, a college friend. I had an agent. I had a neighbor, I had a lot of different people. My sister, family, my wife's family. I didn't have broadcasters. Nobody thinks twice about that. But if you're an athlete and get married, especially a quarterback, and you don't have any players involved, it does feel unfairly weird. It's like if you owned a restaurant and you had nobody from the restaurant at your wedding, because we know you work 80 hours a week and nobody goes to your wedding. You kind of feel like in pro sports, it's a brotherhood. You don't have any players at your wedding. You have like one guy. And I remember reading that story and thinking, that feels odd. And I thought, well, it wouldn't be odd. I didn't have broadcasters. But broadcasters go their own separate way. You know what I mean? Like, we go in, we work, we leave. We don't hang out together. Maybe your first job in El Paso you do. But, as you move on in Chicago, you got wives and kids. But it's just one of those things that was, because I was always a big Russ defender. And when I read that story about getting married and there weren't players there, I was like, that does feel odd. That's it. Because especially as a quarterback, you'd bring your lineman. Now it's time for this week's Redeem Team member, brought to you by Hulu's Chad Powers. This week it's Jared Goff. The underappreciated Goff leads the NFL in passing touchdowns and completion percentage, despite being on his 7th offensive coordinator. Chad Powers is now streaming with new episodes Tuesday on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
That was the thing I was just going to say. The quarterback doesn't have friends on the team. That can't be good. I wouldn't want to be his left tackle. Yeah, no, and by the way, I've never met Russell Wilson. He is clearly a little weird. Like, he's a little different, a little eccentric, which is fine. It's surprising still to me to hear that many, those high profile people, teammates and otherwise, speak out against him. And I'm with you. At this point, if I had to bet on it, on him being a finalist but not getting in, like getting past like the first couple of rounds down to the final 15 and not getting in. Like Canton's tough. We've been off the last, for baseball playoffs, but I saw you had a Jared Goff. You have him as a Hall of Famer.
No, I said he will be a Hall of Famer. Absolutely. Since 2017. So that's going to be 9 years. He's like first in passing touchdowns. First, I think people are shocked. He's had 7 offensive coordinators. He was great with 6. Like he works with everybody. And I think, to me, that's always been it. It'd be one thing if we're in TV and you had this one great producer and the rest of your career, 8 shows bombed. It's like, okay, who was your partner? Who was your producer? 7 coordinators, 6 he's crushed. And it's like, guys, I always think Hall of Fames are a great 10 years. That's why I never understood the Jim Rice. I know he was difficult with the press or something, but Jim Rice, when I was a kid, was the best right-handed American League power hitter for a decade. Like, it was just like he was one of 2. He and Fred Lynn were the Red Sox, and like people went back and forth, and I'm like, what? 10 years of greatness is hard. For your peak, maybe 8 physical years. And so if you look at Jared Goff, he has 8 great years. Well, this front office is so good. Amon-Ra St. Brown's in his prime. The running backs, one's young, one's not that old. Penei Sewell is just entered his prime. He's going to have 3 to 4 big years with Detroit or somebody. Jared's a Hall of Famer, and he's made no enemies. Even McVay feels guilty for letting him go.
Well, he definitely seems like a very nice guy. Yeah, and I mean Laporta and Jamison Williams are young, So he's got plenty of young talent. The numbers are ridiculous. The only thing I would say is, because I love the Lions and they've been my Super Bowl pick 3 years in a row. So eventually maybe I'll get it right. It's not just a stats thing. It's not like he will need to hoist a trophy, because I think Stafford is in, because Stafford is going to finish 6th all time in passing yards.
Yeah, Stafford's in.
I agree. And he has the trophy, but like if Stafford didn't have the trophy,
very hard, probably not.
But he's got numbers that are far. I mean, obviously, we'll see where Jared Goff ends up, but like it's not like a guarantee that Jared Goff ends up top 5 all time in passing yards. He might, but
it helps. It does help, even though it's not linear. It does help that Goff is better with the Lions than Stafford was.
Yes.
I mean, you look at it and you're like, God, Goff crushed, and Stafford never did. Now, one of them had the best young GM in the sport, or one of the best GMs. So it's not apples to orange apples, right? It's different. But I do think there's, that's just one of those things you look at and you're like, well, Goff won big in Detroit, and we all know it's same ownership,
right?
Quirky head coach and Dan Campbell. He didn't have McVay.
Yeah, but I think that like in a vacuum in their prime, starting a team, right? Because Stafford.
Yeah, right.
Stafford. Exactly. And again, that's also not the criteria for the Hall of Fame.
Right.
But I remember a GM was like, my job is to evaluate individual talent amidst the team sport. Like that's like the job of the football general manager, right? And so like, it's why I've always been a big Herbert guy. And like, I watch him, and not everyone is a free agent. We are not doing this to start a team, but I'm like, that guy is one of the 5 best at the position. He just doesn't have the trophy case for it. Right. Stafford in his prime always felt like the same type of thing to me. Like, I would love to give Howie Roseman the ability to build a team around Matt Stafford, to give Brett Veach, to give Brad Holmes, the general manager of the Lions, like to build around the great quarterback, because he's a Hall of Fame talent, and now I do think that Stafford has enough of a resume that he will ultimately get in. Goff, I think, is going to need a trophy. Like if he has regular season success and counting stats, the Pro Football Hall of Fame is really tough to get into. So I think they're going to have to break through and start winning in the playoffs.
So you had I've had a couple of winning weeks in Blazing 5, and frankly, I've actually lost 3 games I should have won, including Denver Colts, which is just outrageous. I've had a couple of stinkers where I've just not been able to get a break. Then last week, I got the over on the Titans Cards, which I didn't deserve, although they should have covered that in the second quarter. Be that as it may, the most interesting bet on the board, and one I'm feeling really strongly about, is Washington minus 4.5 at home against Chicago. So I think a bye week is really valuable when you have a veteran quarterback, a proven coach, a Peyton, an Andy Reid with Mahomes. You can really add layers to a playbook. Arians and Tom Brady come out of the bye and don't lose again. But when you have Caleb Williams and you're trying to get the basic operations polished, you're just trying to get the consistency ramped up. You're not really spending it adding layers and layers to a playbook. So you don't get that advantage. Also, Washington now, Terry McLaurin back, Deebo Samuels. If you watch the second half of the Chargers-Commanders game, Jaden Daniels was Jaden Daniels. Spinning it, accurate, moving. It was, okay, let's not forget how good he was last year. He looked like that guy. It's one of my favorite picks of the week. I also have this, I think I've told you this, the number 4, I always take the favorite because Vegas doesn't want to make anybody a 4 to 4.5 point favorite. They want to go 3, they want to go 7. When they do that 4, 4.5, 5, it's like, okay, this team is better. We'd prefer to get it down to 3. They don't want to go to 4. I think Washington's my favorite bet of the week.
Well, I hope you're wrong. We'll start there. What I will push back on is you're right. I don't think that the advantage for the Bears coming out of the bye is the same as it is for Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Bruce Arians in terms of like extra game planning for Washington. Like that is probably not what was happening. But like, you know what I'd settle for as a Bears guy? Figuring out how to run the ball a little bit. Like that, I do think that having a new coach that is trying to instill a new system, having an early bye is helpful because it's more about self-scouting. It's more about like an extra week of training camp. And so, yeah, it's maybe not like the conventional ad, but like maybe the Bears will get the play call in a few seconds faster. Maybe they'll have a few fewer pre-snap penalties. Maybe they'd have a game with no pre-snap penalties. That would be amazing. And so like those are low bars to clear, but I have thought that the Bears have gotten better week to week to week with Caleb Williams playing on schedule, playing in the pocket, what Ben Johnson is clearly trying to get out of him. Some of it was the opponent, right? Dallas's defense is a layup. The Raiders defense hadn't been very good. That is clearly part of it. And Washington has a very good pass rush, and we'll see how healthy the Bears offensive line ends up being. We don't know who's going to start at left tackle or right tackle at this moment in time, which is not great for the Bears. But I do expect the Bears to play well. Because I think that they are very bought in on Ben Johnson. I do think he's a good coach, and I think that they are going to self-scout. Like Grady Jarrett and TJ Edwards should help their run defense a little bit. And I'm expecting a great game. So I don't love it as nearly as much as you do from either side. I don't have.
Do you have a pick you love?
Not on the game. I don't. I mean, again, but part of this is I've got a lot of like take equity in Caleb Williams being good. And this is such a fun spot for Ben Johnson and the Bears. Like everybody left Caleb for dead in the Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams debate, right? Jaden has the best rookie year I've ever seen. Caleb Williams, rocky at best, gets his play caller fired, his head coach fired. Everyone's got Jaden Daniels as this great guy. It's also the game, you'll remember, where the Bears lost on the Hail Mary last year. They were 4-2. Tyreek Stevenson is taunting the crowd, and then his guy catches the Hail Mary, and then the Bears lose 10 straight games. So exercising the demons of the Hail Mary game, Caleb v. Jaden, Ben Johnson out of a bye. Like I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to get the best version of the Bears. They might lose, but I will be shocked if they play poorly. Like I will just be shocked if they play poorly. And I still have enough root in me for the Bears that I'm just going to not bet this one because I'll be sweating it enough, which is a little embarrassing as a degenerate gambler. But as of now, I have no bet in the game.
Sports fans love a comeback, so the underdog that kind of defies the odds. So that's the story of Green River Whiskey. In 1918, their distillery burned to the ground, 40,000 barrels of bourbon gone. Most would have quit, and they rebuilt from the ground up on the original site in Owensboro, Kentucky. And today they're producing some of the great bourbons and rye whiskeys in the game. Kentucky straight bourbon, a wheated, foolproof rye. It's a lineup built on resilience. So if you love a good comeback in sports or in your glass, Green River's got you covered. Head on over to greenriverwhiskey.com to learn more. Try some for yourself. And always, please drink responsibly. All right, baseball. Cubs beat the Brewers 4-3. The Brewers have been the better team all year. It's got to be frustrating as hell to live in Chicago and have the Packers and the Brewers, small market Milwaukee, be superior organizations. Although I think Ricketts is a really good, above average owner, really in the community, really respected, really smart guy. Based on how the Cubs season is gone, let's say the Cubs lose in 4 or 5. How will that be viewed? Because I know when you're a Mariner fan, they're the only team that's never been to a World Series. If they get to the ALCS and they get overwhelmed by Toronto in 6, you'd be like, listen, what a great season. Most of their guys are in arbitration. It's a young team. I mean, Cal Raleigh this year is only making 2.5. Like, Seattle's young, ascending, loyal fans, only team in the Northwest. If it goes to the American League Championship Series and you win some games, it's just a magical season to remember. New York, once Garrett Cole got hurt, was delusional if they thought they were going to win the thing. The Dodgers just have far more good players, and the Brewers ended up being better than the Yankees. And the Blue Jays, I do believe, will win that series. They hit too much. I mean, the Yankee starters. Toronto's hitting .439 against Yankee starters. It's like beer league softball numbers. So, but how are the Cubs viewed? Because Milwaukee they swept the Dodgers this year. They have been a freight train. Let's say they lose the next game, or let's say they take it 5 and lose. How will that be viewed in Chicago?
Massive disappointment and wildly frustrating, if not expected. Few layers to it. And maybe the biggest one is the Cubs stole Craig Counsell from the Brewers.
That's
right. Their manager. They made him the highest paid manager in the sport by far. Everyone has biases. You can trust the people who admit their biases. I'm friends with Craig Counsell. He was my brother's childhood best friend. I've known him since I was 6 years old. I do a big charity thing with the Cubs. I know Craig pretty well, and I root for the Cubs since I was a little kid. Craig's brilliant. He's a great manager. But the Cubs dwarfed the Brewers in payroll. They stole their manager, and they had fewer wins than the Brewers last year, and they had fewer wins than the Brewers this year. And then if the Brewers are the team that eliminates them from the postseason, it's just not acceptable given the payroll and the resources disparities. It's just not. And Tom Ricketts, by the way, would say the same thing. He will not be happy with the result of that. And Cubs fans would say, well, then spend more money. And the Cubs were disappointing at the deadline because Justin Steele, who was their ace, got hurt in April, out for the year. And they did not make a big buy at the deadline. They made 4 moves, mostly peripheral, smaller moves. And that was seen as very disappointing because they didn't go out and get a true difference maker.
Did those moves help?
Well, that's the thing. There really was no true difference-making pitcher who was traded. It was a fairly benign deadline in that way, but fans don't really want to hear that. And so Steele got hurt in April, and then Cade Horton's their rookie pitcher, who was an absolute stud, he got hurt in September. So it was, oh wow, Horton's going to be able to carry him, and then he got hurt right before the playoffs. So they started, Colin, they had an opener in game 2 against the Padres. They did a bullpen game in game 2 of the wild card series. That's how depleted the Cubs pitching staff is. So at this point, and Shota Imanaga, who they've paid a bunch of money to and was really good, has been struggling and giving up a ton of homers, and he got shelled in game 2 against Milwaukee. So the Cubs just do not have enough arms. So I will be shocked if the Cubs beat the Brewers in this series. I'll be shocked by it. But a lot of people have wanted to blame Counsell, and I just don't think that that is right. And yes, again, I am friends with him, but I think objectively, they don't have the arms. They do not have the horses. And given their payroll and their advantages, it's wildly disappointing. So hopefully this is a big offseason for them. And I mean, listen, first of all, hopefully they make a run and they shock me and they make me eat my words. But assuming with your pretense that they lose in 4 or 5, Cubs fans are not going to be satisfied with this year because of the inactivity of the deadline and because of who they lost to. They feel like they lost to little brother in pickup, and it's embarrassing.
It's interesting about how this is more of a player empowerment era the last 15 years than previously.
Yeah, sure.
And I mean, outside of the SEC, and even that scaled back in the last 3 or 4 years, where you can still berate players like it's the 70s. I mean, not shy of Woody Hayes, but like bad behavior. It looks like a lunatic dad screaming at a son. You can still get away with that, right, in the South. I don't think it works as well in the Big Ten. It's just a different. It doesn't work at all on the West Coast at all. It's
how about the Cardinals? The Cardinals fining Jonathan Gannon. I reread that story. Sorry to cut you off, but I was just like I didn't see anyone outraged by it. Like I didn't see.
Okay, so were you bothered by that?
No, I wasn't. I mean, I have if a team wants to fine him, that's fine. But like when I first saw that he was fined, I was like, oh, did the NFL fine him? And I was like, no. I was like, did the players union file a grievance? No. Was there like a big amount of media uproar over what Jonathan Gannon did on the sideline? No. Had any players come out, to our knowledge, and said that it was completely out of line? Like, no. Like what DeMarcado did was intergalactically stupid. And his coach blew a gasket, unbecoming. I wouldn't want him to do it to my kid in Little League or even in like high school football, or I guess we could talk in college football. But like in professional sports, I don't know, a misdemeanor at best.
Yeah, because the power dynamic in college, or especially in the last 20 years until recently, the coach is making $8 million a year and the player's not making anything. That's a weird power dynamic. Like, don't touch the player.
Yeah, of course.
But, I mean, what Bobby Knight did now would not be tolerated. It wasn't tolerated then, frankly. But
nor should it. But
as a pro athlete,
yeah, I'm not saying it's good, but I'm also not at all offended by it. And by the way, like he didn't hit him.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like he didn't like punch him in the face. Like it wasn't like he was pissed. He was angry in the moment and he made physical contact with him. Like it didn't register to me as this terrible thing. And by the way, I don't care that he got fined either. Like a private business can discipline an employee and that's fine. But I was just wondering, like, who were they doing that on behalf of? Like who was actually offended by what Jonathan Gannon did to make them feel like they needed to discipline? It made it like the owner. Like maybe just like the owner was upset.
Bidwell's probably the weakest owner in the league, honestly.
Yeah.
Interesting guy. I think there are certain things the media is more bothered by than like fans. And I think one of them is treatment of players. It's always like, I mean, I could name writers that they're, I mean, good God, Kaepernick sued the league. He's not going to get a lot of calls when there's an opening at quarterback. Like it's not collusion.
You don't even a bunch of media outraged over Gannon?
Oh, no. I'm saying but I remember during the Kaepernick years, I'm like, guys, he sued the league.
Sure.
If an employee sued me at the Volume and he won, there's no collusion. I wouldn't hire them again. I wouldn't want the headache. There is no collusion. You don't have to say certain things and it's understood. Like when you're a kid and mom or dad are pissed, the kids don't have to gather and vote on the outcome if you do something stupid again. Like they're upset. Don't play ball in the house. Like this, everybody knows your wife's upset with you. I think tonight, I'll agree with everything she says. Like, right? Like everybody in the house gets that. It's the same. So, but I do think the media in Phoenix may have been very pro player, and you can't touch a player, and owners listen and read that stuff and are influenced by it. Because my take was, I would have strongly considered cutting the player.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have bothered me.
I looked it up because I wasn't like 100% sure. Like, he's the exact type of player that you can cut.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not like when Deshaun Jackson did it like a decade and a half ago. Like, you're not cutting Deshaun Jackson. Like,
right.
Bonehead move, but one of the best deep threats in the NFL for a decade. Like, you're not cutting Deshaun, but like a third-year running back on a minimum contract who had 8 carries before, like, leading into that game, like, you can cut that guy. And again, I'm not condoning making physical contact with you, but like Andy Reid and Travis Kelce have a physical altercation every 6 weeks. Like, and the one that happened a couple of weeks ago was Andy Reid initiating the physical contact with Travis Kelce. Like, it just, maybe Phoenix media was pissed. Maybe there was some sort of huge outcry that I completely missed, but I'm pretty online and I'm pretty plugged into the media. All of it was, what a bonehead play by DeMarcado. And how could it happen the week after Adonai Mitchell did it?
We've had it happen 3 times because there was a Jets running back who did it too. And I went on the air the next day and I said, my belief on why it's happening more, because young people are performative. And it starts with TikTok and IG, and everybody's performative. Go to a restaurant. People can't eat without taking pictures of their food. You can't go anywhere in Italy, in Florence. It's just young people taking pictures. I've never taken a selfie. I'm not going to do it. I've taken pictures of my wife and I together to send to the kids.
Yeah.
But we live in this world where 20-somethings, they're performative. They're always on camera. And so as they're scoring, the first thing many of them think about is, I want to put on a show. What will this look like if friends take a picture of it? And like A.D. Mitchell never scored a touchdown before. Like, the idea that in that moment, the first thing you're thinking of is showboating it's beyond me. And apparently A.D. Mitchell's very liked by the Colts and in the room. But yeah, I think you have to send messages. I would cut players who did that.
Yeah, and like, again, I think it's the ultimate
selfish.
Yeah, but it's very selfish, but also, like, how good are you? Like, can I afford to send this message and cut you? And again, I have no idea, but I would imagine, from what I do know about coaches, part of what they do every week is when weird things happen around the league, they show it.
Football season's here, and if you want to go to an NFL or college football game, Game Time is the place for you. The Game Time app just gives you the advantage back to you, the fans. It's a hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in a few taps. I love it. Easy to use. The Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price, 100%. So they even let you preview your seat on the app. That's special. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay every time. Take the guesswork out of buying professional football tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account. If you use the code Colin, COLIN, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code COLIN, $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. I want to end with this because it's kind of a think piece. Derek Thompson writes for The Atlantic. He's one of my favorite writers. He's kind of a theorist. He loves new data. He loves culture changes. And last week, he was talking, and he acknowledges he is center left, and he admits it. He doesn't hide it. But I think he's a really interesting read. I think he does a podcast for The Ringer. We at the Volume, we were really interested in him. We didn't reach out, but he was one of the 2 or 3 people that we were just fascinated with. And it's really an interesting thing he brought up this week. He was complaining about conservatives doing something. And he goes, but what equally drives me crazy is that progressives in California, many are against Waymo. And their take is, well, you're unemploying people. This is not good for jobs. And his argument was, time out. We do not want to be the party that's anti-tech. The conservatives are anti-science. We can't be anti-tech. And I read that and I thought, it is fascinating. I used to live in Oregon, very liberal. And gas stations, you can't pump your own gas. And Oregon's theory is it keeps thousands of people employed in the state of Oregon. And it rains a lot. So I kind of like somebody pumping my gas, to be honest with you. And by the way, gas stations are kind of dirty. You're touching stuff. So it's like, I always kind of thought it was cool. You talk to the guy or gal, and it's like, that's good. So where would you fall on this? It absolutely will create job loss. I mean, there's no question. Uber drivers are in big trouble in California because I'm telling you where I live, Waymo cars are everywhere, Danny, and I prefer them. Nothing against the driver, but no driver? Yeah. And by the way, nobody has stale candy. Nobody wants to ask me about the Eagles. I get in the car, it gets there fast, and I'm a Waymo guy.
Wow.
But then tens of thousands of people could lose their jobs. As somebody you acknowledge, you're center left.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do if you're a Democrat in California? So my take is I'm pro-technology, and nobody has a right to a job. I grew up in a fishing village, and because the state of Washington limited salmon distribution or the number of salmon you could catch, salmon fishermen lost work. And my stepdad, who was a very much kind of a man of nature and a man of earth and a fisherman, and I used to argue with him, I'm going into broadcasting. If radio died tomorrow, I don't have a right to a job. And so it was like, just because you're a fisherman at 28 doesn't mean you're one at 48. Like, states have legislation. They protect our earth. So I'm for Waymo, which means I'm kind of for job loss. Where do you land?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I am pro innovation, and like, there's a lot of problems with capitalism, but it's the best we got. Like the kind of a play on that, the old, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the other ones, and so like, are there problems with it? Yes. Are there unintended consequences? Absolutely. But I don't think you want to be in the business of stifling innovation. Because what's the next thing that would, like, I'd be thrilled if there was some level of innovation that made pediatric cancer doctors have to go extinct because we had solved it, And so, like, it's the type of thing where, like, just in general, innovation is good. Like, the Easy Pass put toll booth workers out of business.
Yeah.
But it's objectively better. Like, we don't have to stop. We don't have to keep coins in our car. We can just keep going on our drive, but it put people out of business for a better way of life. So I've never been in a driverless car before. So I'm glad, like, I wouldn't be the test case for it. So, like, I'm glad to hear that you're doing it and it's going well. But like, I think that type of like, if they can do it, and they clearly can, and I'm aware of Waymo, and I'm aware of the fact that this is becoming more and more popular, like, it's just going to lead to less auto crashes. It's going to lead to people being safer. It's going to lead to fewer deaths. It's going to lead to fewer deaths.
Oh,
right?
No question. Also, there are safety concerns with women and male Uber drivers. I mean, that's nothing against Uber. There have been lots of lawsuits. You can go back and look at the history of Uber, and there have been lots of lawsuits. You eliminate that. I mean, there's no question the number of car deaths will plummet in America.
So, like, that to me, an obvious negative is the job loss, but there are so many also positives that come with it that one to me is not terribly difficult to be like, yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Like, and in general, again, like, there was a story arc in The Wire. The Wire to me is the greatest television show ever. And that show came out 20 plus years ago. About like the the dock workers and how they could unload and offload ships, like cargo ships, big containers that weigh, thousands of tons and all that stuff. And there were the stevedores were like, that's gonna put us out of jobs. And they're like, yeah, but you're not gonna die on the job. And then the stevedore's like, but I'd rather get injured on the job and have a job. But that's not the point. The guy who developed the technology to offload the cargo ship faster, more efficiently, no stealing, no injuries, that guy created that company to do it. That was innovation. It was progress, moving it forward. And so it sucks. And by the way, you mentioned the radio thing. I'm 30, I turned 39 in 2 weeks. I have no idea what the next 20 years of media is going to look like. And like what my career in this industry, like cable television, cord cutting, podcasting, it keeps evolving. We have to keep evolving in our field. A lot of people have to keep evolving in theirs. So it doesn't, I feel bad for the individual who would lose their job enough to make me anti-innovation and progress.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I did local TV sports. That kind of dried up.
That's a good example. That was a job that
yeah.
in Chicago
You make $1 million a year 20 years ago.
Correct. That's exactly. That was a 7-figure job into the first part of the 21st century. Like Mark Giangreco, friend of mine in Chicago, legend, covered like the Bulls dynasties and all of that. He was still making north of $1 million into the 2000s. Now the people that have that job, low 6 figures and nobody watches.
Yeah.
It's just a completely different ecosystem, and that's the way of the world. So you're totally, have you ever had an issue, by the way, driverless
With
car?
Waymo?
Yeah, the
No.
vast majority of people here have never been in a listening to this, have never been in a driverless car.
Yeah, I've been in 3. They're fantastic. And I'm not
Really?
I'm not anti-Uber. I've spent a lot of money on Uber, but there is a gap in Uber drivers. And if you go the lower levels of Uber, I had an Uber driver because I had a very short drive recently in Chicago. He pulled up to my street and stopped in the middle of the street. Didn't pull into my driveway. There were 30 cars as I walked on the road to get in and like bowed my head and apologized. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and it was the cheapest level of it because it was like a 6-minute drive to the train station. So like Waymo, everybody's good. They're all the exact same. There's no good, bad, smelly. I mean, I've gotten into Uber cars before and the music's loud and it smells like hygiene issues. It's like, it's rare, but it happens.
Yeah.
And there's no question. In Chicago, I take an Uber every day, about a 7 to 10 minute drive from where I work to OTC, Ogilvy train station.
Yep.
The gap in competency is startling.
Yeah.
7 to 8 minutes for 10 to 15%.
Now-
9 to 12, I've had 23 times.
Now, can I make a small suggestion to you before Waymo gets to Chicago? You're a pretty successful guy, Colin. You can go Uber Black.
Very frustrating.
You don't have to be in the Uber X to save your $9 and get in the back of someone's Corolla. Like you could pay up for your Uber Black and get in a Suburban, buddy.
You don't know Anne. Somebody in our family has to save money.
Fair enough. No, Nick and I went to you'll like this. Nick, and you can cut it if you want. But Nick and I went to the US Open, and getting out of there with cars is a disaster. And I live in Westchester, which is suburban New York, and Nick lives in Harlem. So we were going to go from US Open to Harlem to the suburb that I live in. So 2 stops. And Nick got an Uber Black because it saved us, 30 plus minutes of like finding the car just because leaving the US Open. And he's like, it was $300 for the car. Expensive car. And he's like, you owe me. He's like, what he had the tickets, very generous. And he's like, let's split the car. He's like, you owe me $150 for the car. And I had 130 in cash on me. And I gave him the 130 and said, if I would have gotten the car, I would have gotten an Uber X. And he's like, so I was like, so take your 130. And he was like, all right. And I am the you in this analogy, but I'm
Yes.
hoping that if I'm ever at your level, I will be the Nick in the analogy and just pay for the Uber Black.
By the way, it doesn't really change. If you've been frugal, it doesn't matter. It's
Okay.
my wife to this day will be like, "You have 6 pair of shoes. I know what you make." And I'm like, "I can live on 4. 6 is really pushing it. That's 2 jogging shoes. Like, come on. How many
Yeah.
brown shoes do you need? One's the answer. Always."
What is the end? Yeah, I think I've owned like 11 pairs of jeans in my life.
I'm the same way. I wore I wore a pair of pants today, and I've had these easily a decade. They're gray, and I always argue they go with everything and they go with nothing simultaneously.
Yeah.
And I had to do a shoot today, and I'm like, could you guys not put these on camera for a Fox Sunday shoot? And they're like, yeah, the way the shot works, they're going to be on camera. And I'm like, does AI, can they change? Like, can we use that thing on these pants? So I wear stuff to work that I'm embarrassed to put on camera. And I'm, in a weird way, I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Superman wore the same thing every day. Steve Jobs wore the same thing every day.
So is
We're
that
in,
NVIDIA guy.
yeah, exactly. The NVIDIA guy wears the same thing every day. We're in good company. We're in good company.
Danny Parkins. Good talking to you, buddy.
Always, Colin. Thank you.